Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, we're going to continue our Inventors We Love series.
I've been waiting for this one.
You have.
Like,
I'll let you intro it then.
I feel like this one was the one I wanted to do first, and then for some reason you kept on poo-pooing it. And
you kept saying, let's put him off until like a really good one. That's what you said.
So, of course, we're talking about Nikola Tesla.
Nikola Tesla.
And I'm just going to, the only reason he's my favorite is because he was born in Croatia. / Serbia, depending on when the countries were conquered and divided up
It wasn't Croatia. It's present-day Croatia.
Present-day Croatia.
Yeah.
So I'll say he's Croatian.
So why do you care?
I'm going to claim him as Croatian because it's present-day Croatia.
Interesting that you say that. He was actually an engineer, unlike a lot of our inventors, but he was an electrical one, though I did see him also listed as a mechanical engineer. So I'm going to claim him as a mechanical engineer.
Nice.
How do you like that?
I also saw that he went to school for
baking,
philosophy,
falafel making.
No,
philosophy.
Philosophy.
I could see that. He seemed like a deep kind of guy.
Yeah, so he was born in 1856 in what is modern-day Croatia.
Do you know what day he was born?
No, I didn't write
July
that down.
10th. That's not really important in any way. I just wanted to
You want a fun fact about his birthday?
Yeah, tell me.
He supposedly was born during a lightning storm.
What?
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. How about that?
Yeah. They thought it was a bad omen, his parents. Father was a priest.
He was.
And his mother apparently was quite ingenuitive.
Ingenuitive.
I'm fairly certain that's the right word.
Okay.
Yeah, so she would make a lot of things with her hands. She kind of
like
ran the
machines
family
and stuff.
farm. Yeah, like she was like a legit like mechanic, like working on stuff for the farm and fixing things. So obviously he had some background. His father wanted him to follow him in the priesthood.
Did not work out.
And he was like, no way, Jose.
Fortunately, he had lots of siblings, so maybe one of them did that.
Yeah, but the one cat died.
Yeah, that
in
was
the
sad.
horse riding accident.
Yeah.
And supposedly that's what drove him bananas. So as a young kid of 7, when his older brother died, he apparently was having like visions and flashbacks, and so he definitely had some mental illness.
Is that the PC term, is it drove him bananas?
I'm fairly certain whenever you go to a hospital, that's what they tell you.
That's
You're
fair.
bananas.
Fun fact for you?
Shoot.
Tesla had an eidetic memory, or photographic memory, if you're a stupid like Luke and don't know what
What's
those
it called?
words mean.
Eidetic?
Yeah, EIDETIC.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard he could memorize like entire books.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
I can't.
That's bananas.
It's bananas. I can't remember what you said 2 seconds ago.
I know. All right. So I didn't look into his history a whole lot, but I did see that in 1873 he contracted cholera and almost died. So that's unfortunate.
Wow.
And his father promised to send him to the best engineering school if he got better, because that's a real prize.
Okay.
And he did get better and sent him off to school. So in school, it said that he worked from 3 a.m. until 11 p.m. all the time, not taking Sundays off, not taking holidays off, taking 2 times as many classes as he needed in his first year, so he was working pretty hard. So when his father died in 1879, he found a bunch of letters from... So Tesla found a bunch of letters from his professors writing to his dad, warning that unless he was removed from school, he would die from overwork.
Wow.
So that's like how hard they thought he was working. Fortunately for Tesla, though, by the end of his second year, he became addicted to gambling.
Nice.
And then he dropped out of school.
I thought you said you didn't do a lot of research. I
guess I did a good job. I meant like his mother did this, and then at 6 he had
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Addicted to gambling? I didn't see that. I thought he was a relatively goody two-shoes.
Well, I think
also a technical term.
Yeah, so I guess he got addicted to gambling and lost his scholarships then, and then like lost his money for paying for stuff, but then gambled and got it back. And then he was so ashamed that he dropped out of school that he basically cut all of the ties from his family and moved away, so that they wouldn't know that he dropped out of school. And then he got some crummy job.
Okay, yeah.
So in 1884, he moved to the United States and actually worked for a short time at the Edison Machine Works, which we've talked about in our Thomas Edison episode.
We did.
So check that one out. A lot of interesting Edison stuff. I still don't think he was a great inventor. I think he was just a great businessman.
The way that I understood Edison was he was very good at marketing.
Yeah. Like, I even wrote this. Edison, perhaps the least inventorish inventor ever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was something.
So even though we consider Tesla kind of like the father of alternating current, he obviously didn't invent it.
That's what I was told.
But he did do all kinds of things to improve it that we'll talk about. But interestingly, before he came to the U.S. and like you said in 1884, he actually his first job, like real legit job, he was actually fixing DC power plants in his home country for the Edison company. So he kind of worked for them before he immigrated, like fixing them more on the mechanical end of, like kind of the stuff his mom did, working with his hands. And then when he came to work for Thomas Edison, he moved into their engineering department and was doing engineering for them.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird how that, I guess, that's his interest, so probably drove him there. But it's interesting that they matched up then.
Want to hear a fun story?
I want to hear all the fun stories.
So Thomas Edison, because he was so impressed with how well Tesla was doing, he said to him, hey, dog, I'll give you 50K. Is that what he said? I'm fairly certain that's how they spoke back then. He said, hey, dog, I'll give you 50K if you help improve the design of his DC dynamos. Because the problem with DC power was basically you needed a DC power plant like every square mile. You couldn't transmit DC power really far. There wasn't a lot. So, yeah, so that was a problem. So after months and months of working on this, Tesla's like, hey, dude, I got you covered. He shows him it. It works. And then basically Edison says to him, yeah, that was kind of a joke. It was like...
You don't get American humor.
Yeah, like he said it tongue-in-cheek, and Tesla, was like, what? And...
what was he like?
He's like, what?
Yeah, he was
And then soon after, he was like, yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And he quit working for Edison.
Yeah, I saw a number of stories of, along those lines of that Edison said something, and Tesla took it literally, and then that kind of burnt the bridge there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because then they become... mortal enemies for the rest of life, which is interesting. So you said he leaves Edison Machine Works after all this stuff, so pretty quickly, and he starts doing his own thing. And by 1888, his alternating current induction motor, as well as a number of other patents that he had, were licensed by Westinghouse Electric. I would tell you to check out our episode on George Westinghouse, but it is still sitting in the reserves. So
okay.
Along with his partners, they ended up working out a deal for $60,000 in cash and stock and royalty of $2.50 per AC horsepower produced by each motor, with a guaranteed $15,000 royalty. So that seems like pretty good. Westinghouse also hired Tesla. This is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
For 1 year for the fee of $2,000 per month, which was $54,500 in today's monies.
That's pretty
good. So that's
good.
a pretty hefty salary. And so he was a consultant for Westinghouse Electric and manufacturing companies in the Pittsburgh labs. So shout out to Pittsburgh.
I love that George Westinghouse and Tesla work together.
Yeah, I like that as well. A little bit later, 6 years later, Westinghouse purchased Tesla's patent for a lump sum payment of $216,000 as part of a patent sharing agreement that they signed with General Electric.
I heard Tesla really lost out on this one.
It seemed like he was a really bad businessman.
Yeah.
And that he wasted money a lot.
And I feel like so the way I understood it was he was super concerned about making the world a better place.
Stupid.
And he and he didn't care about making money like Westinghouse or Edison and some of the other inventors of the time. It was all about just improving on, alternating current, making sure that we can provide power to people all over the country and all over the world. And I think that was probably not a good thing.
Yeah.
He needed someone like you and I, marketing professionals, to work with him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I would have only charged a sum of $2,000 per month back then. Did you see that the merger between Edison and Thomson Houston, which were the two other big electric companies other than Westinghouse, came together to form General Electric?
Yep.
I thought that was interesting. One more fun fact, and then we're going to have to take a break. For our EEs out there, Tesla served as the VP of the American Institute of Electrical Engineers from 1892 to 1894, which was the forerunner of today's IEEE.
Nice.
Yeah, so go EEs. Maybe he was more of those than a mechanical. Too bad he's still ours.
Yes.
All right.
I agree.
So let's take a break for this week's word from our sponsor.
Got to be Westinghouse or General Electric or...
Westinghouse actually reached out, but they're going through some tough times, so they were asking for us to sponsor them.
Oh, pow.
Burn. All right, so we actually don't have any shout-outs this week either, which is a little hurtful, but I do like to take the time sometimes to say, why don't you head over to iTunes or wherever you listen and press the little subscribe button.
And the other thing too, James? Reviews.
Right, that's a great idea, Luke.
I love reading the reviews.
Me too.
Especially whenever they're positive. The negative ones, I kind of...
I don't like reading those. They really bring me down for the day.
But I also like whenever people... So the last couple, we've had some folks reach out on Facebook, on our Facebook page. Just, look for Unprofessional Engineering on Facebook, and they send us some notes via Facebook. That's so fun.
That is nice.
I like that.
And they email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com all the time.
All they got to do is ask for stickers, and we send them.
Oh, my gosh.
Worldwide.
Amazing stickers.
Yeah.
Amazing. So anyways, go to iTunes or wherever, subscribe, write us a review so that we can become famous soon, like Nikola Tesla, and hopefully better with money. Right? Email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. Facebook us, and you could even tweet us if you want. I'll look at it once a week.
Twitters are there. Yeah, and the YouTubes, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we are on the YouTubes. I've started putting videos up there again.
Yeah, they're not too good.
Wow. That was hurtful.
But if you want to listen on
it's the
YouTube,
podcast. You just listen.
It is, but I like the... never mind.
Wow, that was really, really negative.
Kind of a low blow.
I'll let you do it from now on.
Nope.
All right, so moving on. Let's get back into Tesla. Where are we at? What do you want to talk about next?
So, during my research, I really
extensive research?
It was pretty... This is more extensive than most. Okay. I came up with a ton of fun facts, and then I have two categories. Inventions that he did that worked, and inventions that never made the cut. Do you want to go with... Or do you have other stuff?
Let me go with just a smidge more. Oh boy, I got a lot more history.
Okay, you can lay down the history.
Okay,
I can do my inventions quick, and I can do my fun facts quick.
Okay, in 1893, Edward Dean Adams, who headed up the Niagara Falls construction company, sought Tesla's opinion on what system would best be used to transmit power, because this was like the new big thing then.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. Also, of course, he said, basically do what Westinghouse should do. And so Westinghouse landed this big contract with the Niagara Falls whole get-up creating power. So making them lots of money, not making Tesla lots of money. In 1894, Tesla began investigating, I thought this was interesting, what he referred to as radiant energy of invisible kinds, after he noticed some damaged film in his lab from previous experiments. He had inadvertently captured X-ray images, predating by a few weeks Wilhelm Röntgen's.
Yep, nailed it.
Did I? I got it?
You did.
His December 1895 finding of X-rays. So I thought that was interesting as well. In the 1890s through 1906, Tesla spent a bunch of his time and a bunch of his own personal money, actually, on a series of projects trying to develop the transmission of electrical power without wires. Like, this was like his white whale. He was always chasing this for so long.
He wanted to, and the one I saw where he felt that in the upper atmosphere, you could electrify the upper atmosphere,
right,
and then basically use, towers or coils to pull that power down to your house or the local transmission station, so you wouldn't need all these wires crisscrossing the globe.
Yeah, which seems like a great plan if it would work. It just never did. But he did move to Colorado Springs to do some of his testing because the air was thinner and it was up higher and all that stuff. So obviously this was going to fix everything. And he observed some weird signals from his receiver and speculated that he was communicating with another planet. He thought he was talking to Mars.
He was a little out there.
Yeah, so reporters were like, yeah, this is amazing. And they decided to write an article for Collier's Weekly entitled it Talking with Planets. And shortly after that came out, it turns out that he was intercepting some experiments from somebody sending Morse code for S, which is 3 dots.
Okay.
And those are the sounds that he picked up. So aliens, whatever.
SOS, same thing.
Then I'll just have like one more story for you so that you can get in on what you are going to be doing. How about that?
Shoot.
November 6th, 1915. A news agency reports from London that the Nobel Prize in Physics is to be awarded to Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, sworn enemies.
Oh.
On November 15th, a story states that the prize has been awarded to Sir William Henry Bragg and William Lawrence Bragg.
Who's that guy?
For their services in the analysis of crystal structure by means of X-rays. There were unsubstantiated rumors that either Tesla or Edison had refused the prize. Basically, it broke down to this, that they were so spiteful towards each other that they weren't willing to share the Nobel Prize with each other, and that Edison was also just so out to get Tesla that he wasn't willing to do it and accept the prize and let Tesla get any of the prize money because he wanted him to like live in poverty, I guess.
So if you and I would ever receive a Nobel Peace Prize, or any prize for that matter,
I could see all of them.
I would do the exact same thing. I wouldn't accept it because I wouldn't want to share it with you.
Really? That's hurtful. I mean, I could see that coming from you. You're that kind of guy.
I am. I am.
But it hurts that you say that. Because me, I would accept it and then steal yours once it got home.
Oh.
See what I did there? All right.
Bazinga, I think is what you say, right?
I did say bazinga. One fun fact for you.
Shoot.
Well, I have a bunch. Go ahead. Let's go and do what you say.
Okay, so I have a list of inventions that he did,
I like that.
or were closely related to, and then inventions that didn't make the cut. So inventions that he made that actually he built and worked and had some. So obviously the Tesla coil. This is what everybody thinks of. That's that big, huge ball with the coils going around the bottom of the base, and like electrical lightning bolts are flying all over the place. It's the thing you put your hand on and your hair sticks up. Basically, that's the concept. And this was one of the ways he would locally in that area where he could transmit electricity through the air. So that's one thing. The next one is the magnifying transmitter, which was the way that you could transmit this from one Tesla coil to the other. He also came up with something called the Tesla turbine. So this was a turbine that instead of a piston,
not a turbine,
engine, a turbine.
Okay.
And it was competing with piston engines, and he gave up pretty quickly because the piston engine was pretty well established, and even though he had a better efficiency rating than the piston, I think his was 60 and the piston's was like 40. I forget what the exact numbers were. He kind of gave up on that one and decided to continue to focus on electricity.
I thought that one was really interesting because it was a bladeless turbine. See how I did pause there? And it used smooth discs that spun in the chamber versus like what we were used to seeing, and I guess still what we're used to seeing. Yeah. But you're right. So it had 60% fuel efficiency versus 42, but the money's got in the way. Yeah. Basically, like big oil was like, no way, man. We're not using that. But I do think it's also interesting that all of his inventions are like the Tesla coil. It always is his name. I'm going to start inventing things like the James podcast.
No. Next one, shadow graphs. This was basically that piece you mentioned, kind of the predecessor to X-rays. The radio. He did not get credit for inventing the radio. Some guy that did the first transmission cross-continental. I didn't even write the cat's name down because he doesn't deserve the recognition. But basically, Tesla had a quote saying something to the effect of, good for him. He used 17 of my patents in developing the radio. Yeah, good for him. Keep doing it. So it was a very backhanded compliment to the guy that got credit for inventing the radio.
I thought that story was really interesting. Can I go into it a little bit? So in 1895 is when this was happening, and Tesla was about to test this, and his lab burnt down.
Yeah.
And so all of his testing got delayed. But meanwhile, that dude that you were talking about, the Italian guy,
don't even say his name. Don't do it. He doesn't deserve it.
All right. So he did this, and like you said, the whole way to use all of my stuff to make this happen thing. And he was granted the patent in 1896. Tesla, though, got the first U.S. patent, but then the guy that shall not be named got backed by companies people like Edison and Andrew Carnegie. And so with all of that big money, his business started really taking off. And in 1904, without any real reason, the U.S. Patent Office was like, no, actually, you don't get this one. This other guy gets the patent. And then named him the inventor of the radio. This guy also won the Nobel Prize in 1911 and 1915.
Poor Tesla.
I know. He really got the shaft.
The last couple, neon lights, the induction motor. He had this thing called a automation. And basically he had this little experiment where he was using radio frequencies to control a boat. So basically remote control.
Yeah, remote control. That's crazy.
And then he isn't the inventor of alternating current. I think we all know that. A lot of people think he is, but he is the one that is directly responsible for the application for widespread use. Without his influence and his designs and his theories that made it applicable to getting electricity into my house, maybe we'd have DC in our house and we'd have power plants every square mile. But
that would be lovely.
That would be horrible. But the long transmission of AC power is directly responsible from Nikola Tesla.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
Two things about the things that you mentioned. The induction motor, did you see that he was in competition with a guy named Galileo Ferrari? Not the car guy, I don't think. But they actually worked on the same technology for the induction motor independently, but came to the same conclusions and the same design, except that Tesla filed his patent first, so he then gets credit for it. And then for the teleautomation, the remote control boat thing, he basically pitched it to the military for torpedoes to be remote controlled, and they were like, meh, we're good.
Meanwhile,
yeah,
idiots.
Dumb. All right, before we go on, let's take a break for this week's Luke's Rant.
Okay, so this is a bizarre rant, and this one is pulling in our longtime listener, close friend of the show, Elon Musk.
We're tight.
Yeah, I don't think it was very original to just name your company Tesla and every vehicle you have the Tesla. I feel...
Well, they're not just the Tesla. It's the Model 3.
The Tesla Model 3. I just feel like...
So it's not like the Ford Escape?
So how come we don't have people that call things the Edison? Or call things the Westinghouse? Or call things...
We do. It's all of Westinghouse.
The Sir Francis Drake. I just feel like...
What about the Dyson?
But that's the guy that actually made it himself.
Oh,
He's
so his company should be called the Musk.
That is awesome.
It is.
The Musk. The Musk 1.
Yeah.
The Musk Model 3.
Boy, that might be better.
Oh, that sounds bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like it's very unoriginal to just grab somebody's name.
A famous scientist.
Yeah, yeah. But then think about it. Ford, but
Ford
owned the company.
He owned the company. Right.
So I just feel like he could have been a little more original with the company name. I feel like he kind of lifted that name because his name didn't really carry any weight with the basically the automotive industry or anywhere, so he just chose a famous electrical inventor guy.
Well, I don't like you dogging on our boy Elon.
Oh, I don't like doing
Elon,
it either.
when you're listening, remember that was Luke and not James. I think we have dinner later this week.
Christmas is coming.
That's true. All right, well, sorry about the naming.
Yeah.
So moving on.
Inventions that didn't make the cut.
Yes.
And I got a bunch of fun facts.
Let's hear those, and then I have a little more info on him.
So, inventions didn't make the cut. The death beam.
Oh, yeah, that was famous.
Yeah, so this was basically a beam from an airship, from the way I understand it would happen, and he came up with the idea, and then apparently he decided not to develop it because he was afraid of the applications. Is that what you got?
That's kind of like what I got. I got that kind of like that, as well as it was kind of this outlandish, not really happening project that got kind of blown out of proportion as well.
Next is the electric-powered supersonic airship.
Holy moly.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Artificial tidal waves. As much as we want to have wireless electricity and wireless energy, it never happened.
We have wireless charging of stuff now.
But
it's not long distance. Could you tell me about an artificial tidal wave real quick?
Why
do I want that?
I think that's what he realized was people didn't want
no more tidal waves. I guess to drive power, maybe.
Potentially. I didn't go into a bunch of detail in this research, James.
Okay.
So
that's surprising.
Let's not ask any.
My bad.
Any follow-up questions?
I'm sorry. I'm interested.
The interesting one, the thought camera, he believed that you could basically capture a thought in a picture. he was kind of out there.
It was a painting.
Yeah. And then the final one, and this one's kind of funny.
Gosh.
He had this one called an earthquake machine. And this one, apparently he had some prototypes, or he did some things with this. And the funny one, he and Mark Twain were buddies.
They were.
And I find this astonishing that he was friends with Mark Twain. So apparently Mark Twain had an issue with constipation.
I did not know that.
And basically, his high-frequency oscillator, this thing would, like, shake the neighborhood. They called this the earthquake machine.
And it shook him loose.
And basically, Mark Twain said that he was so constipated, he goes to visit Tesla, he goes to the lab, and he's standing, like, next to or on this high-frequency oscillating machine, and it shakes you so much that it basically, he said, like, 30 seconds standing on there, and everything was ready to go. And he had to kind of make a beeline for the bathroom.
Wasn't there some war thing that they would shoot at people and it would like vibrate them and make them sick?
Something like that.
Or maybe it was made up. I don't know.
But yeah, so
interesting.
So he unconstipated Mark Twain.
That's a
Talk
big
about
accomplishment.
An interesting fact.
Yeah. So I have a number of fun facts, but
And
before I get into those, we should probably talk about the end of old Nikola Tesla.
This was.
After suffering yet another nervous breakdown following the closure of his free energy project, he began working a little bit, but mostly just as a consultant. But as time went on, the people that he was consulting for kind of figured out that his ideas were getting like a lot crazier and more impractical. He grew to become more and more eccentric, devoting most of his time to the care of wild pigeons in New York City. He even drew attention of the FBI with the death beam that we talked about. And then he died in 1943.
Yeah, kind of the sad
kind of nutso. Yeah. Bananas, I think you say.
Yeah, bananas. So interesting. So fun fact, unfortunately. So his last few years. So you got to go to this website. It's called theoatmeal.com/comics/Tesla. Yeah, I don't know what they do. So basically, they make comics on people and topics. So it's this really fun kind of infographic comic that's all about Tesla. And at the very end of his life, in his last interview he was talking about his pigeons. And apparently he had hundreds and thousands of pigeons that he would keep on the rooftop of a hotel, because he also lived in a hotel for years and years and years. And that's why he was friends with all these super famous people, because apparently crazy rich entrepreneurs and eccentric people, they live in like the Waldorf Astoria and stuff like that. So he has all these pigeons on the roof, and he talks about this one pigeon in particular that was a girl pigeon, and he loved this girl pigeon, and he knew this girl pigeon loved him. And this is in an interview, so this is documented. And here he felt like he could communicate with these pigeons.
Did you know that he didn't think that you should get married?
Yeah, he apparently he was celibate his entire life.
A few fun facts for you.
Shoot, I got a bunch too. We'll go back and
Tesla
forth.
obtained 300 patents worldwide for his inventions.
I had a different number, but it was across 26 different countries.
It was. Yeah, I saw your number too, but they said that some keep cropping up.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have another one?
So the next one was he had severe OCD from a very early age.
Oh.
Or back then they didn't call it obsessive-compulsive disorder. They said you were bananas.
They said you were bananas.
Now it's called OCD.
Later in his life, Tesla worked every day from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. or later, with dinner at exactly 8:10 p.m. at Delmonico's restaurant, and later the Waldorf Astoria Hotel.
Back in 1960, the General Conference of Weights and Measures named the SI unit of magnetic flux density the Tesla.
Wow.
How would you like to have a unit of measure named after you?
I'd like it. He curled his toes 100 times.
I saw this, and I was
for
like, that's
each
so
foot
stupid,
every night, saying that it
stimulated
stimulated his brain cells.
He spoke 8 different languages.
It's impressive. We talked about him being friends with Mark Twain, his close personal friend, much like Elon Musk and us. They spent a lot of time together in his lab and elsewhere. Twain notably described Tesla's induction motor invention as the most valuable patent since the telephone. Alexander Graham Bell. Go check out our episode on that.
Good old bellies. Did you know that many of his inventions, because when he died and how his estate was taken over, some government agency took over like his lab and all his research, and they say that like lots of his inventions are still classified and haven't been released by the U.S. government. So what the heck was he working on that the U.S. government kept it classified this long?
That's crazy. One more fun fact for me. Tesla disagreed with the theory of atoms being composed of smaller subatomic particles, stating that there was no such thing as an electron creating an electric charge. So I guess you don't get them all right.
Yeah, you don't. Let's see. Do I have any other ones that are really... Oh, this is one. So Edison, jerk. He arranged to have a convicted New York murderer put to death using AC power as a stunt design to show how dangerous the Westinghouse standard alternating current was.
Yeah.
And apparently, where his lab was, he would pay kids in the neighborhood like 5 cents a head to bring them dogs and cats, and they would electrocute dogs and cats in demonstrations with AC power to prove how dangerous it was.
He's terrible.
Great marketing.
Yeah.
Electrocuting cats and dogs to like discredit your competitor.
So I have a game that I want to play with
here we go. Shoot.
Don't look at my screen.
I won't.
We're calling this one, and it's our quotes game. You know how it goes.
I love quotes game.
Nikola Tesla or Bob Ross.
Oh wow.
That's what we're going with. I don't care that they stole my idea. I care that they don't have any of their own.
Bob Ross.
Tesla. The scientists of today think deeply instead of clearly. One must be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply to be quite insane.
Tesla.
Which is funny because he was quite insane. Or bananas. Talent is a pursued interest. Anything that you're willing to practice, you can do.
Bob Ross.
Bob Ross.
Nice.
If your hate could be turned into, this is easy, into electricity, it would light up the whole world.
You didn't think about that one, Bob Ross.
That's Bob Ross. No, it's not. I guess I'm a little weird. I like to talk to the trees and animals. That's okay, though. I have more fun than most people.
I'm going to say Tesla because of the whole pigeon thing.
It is Bob Ross.
Really? Happy little trees.
There's nothing in the world that breeds success like success.
Nikola Tesla.
Bob Ross.
What?
I do not think you can name many great inventions that have been made by married men.
That's Tesla because he didn't get married. I knew that one.
Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is when ideas are born.
Tesla.
Life is and will ever remain an equation incapable of solution, but it contains certain known factors.
Tesla.
One last one.
Okay.
Now then, let's come right down in here and put some nice big strong arms on those trees. Trees needs arms too. It'll hold up the weight of the forest. So, little bird has to have a place to set there. There he goes.
So Bob Ross, rest in peace. So did you ever watch? I know we're over time here, but I have to say I used to watch Bob Ross growing up.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch it?
So I did. It was kind of like one of those, just like chill out and watch him and kind of enjoy stuff, for
Bob
a little
Ross.
bit.
I did.
A little escape.
He was on PBS here in Pittsburgh, and I used to love watching Bob Ross.
Man, between Bob Ross and Fred Rogers.
Yeah. I don't think Bob Ross was a
local
local guy.
But I mean, like, on PBS.
We had a pretty good childhood with those two cats.
I agree. Yours was probably in black and white, but still.
It mostly was.
Yeah. Well, I think we covered Tesla pretty well, and we even got a little Bob Ross in there, so how could you complain about that? Hopefully everybody learned something here and now really appreciates what Tesla has done for us.
Yes.
All right. Well, until next time.
See ya.